I'm just using this for the first time, so pardon my, there. All right. My name is Diane Eicher, and our service leader today is not Nikki Norman. She's under the weather, so we have Ann Dobson. Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church of Saco and Biddeford. We also want to welcome those who are joining us on YouTube and encourage you to have a candle or chalice to light when we light ours in a few moments. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, we are glad to have you with us here today. We strive to be a green sanctuary. It gives roots and wings to our vision of a world where all people build toward a sustainable future and make reverence, gratitude, and care for the living earth central to our lives. We want to acknowledge that our building sits on the land of the Wabanaki Confederation, which includes the Abenaki, Maliseet, Micmac, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot nations. We invite you to take home the order of service for information and announcements, or you may leave it for recycling as you leave the sanctuary. Our current COVID guidelines are on the back page. We'd also like to encourage you to sign up today for the potluck we'll be having next Sunday after the service. The sign-up sheet is on the bulletin board outside the parish hall. And there will be a social hour in the parish hall after the service. Please join us.
This is our sacred promise to gather together in peace, to seek truth in love, to serve human need, so that all shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thank you. Our opening words today are from a sermon preached by the Reverend F.W.P. Greenwood, and most of you know this by heart, on November 27th, 1827, when we dedicated this sanctuary. I Googled Reverend Greenwood recently, and I found that his sermon immediately comes up all these years later. The sermon is printed in a protective binder right here, so after the service, if you all want to look at it, you're more than welcome to. He was a rock star in his day. So he said in that sermon in part, "And those Athenians did honestly seek to be instructed in a religion which, whether or not claims to be true, and if true, is of utmost consequence to every human being." Now join me in hymn number 1. May nothing evil will cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This heart through all the world grow chill will keep you warm. Please walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in. As Laurie says, don't sit down. Now is the time that we greet our neighbors. Are you up for a journey? I always have a fit when people think they have to run all over the church. Tom, are you? Do you need to be cued? Tom?
hold it really close.
Hi everybody, my name's Bo. I just lit this candle because tomorrow is officially spring. As some of you know, I moved here after 17 years in Phoenix, Arizona. So this has been my first winter in 17 years, and it was very exciting during the holidays, and then it just seemed to drag on and got darker and darker, which I'm really not used to. So I would start work and it'd be dark, and I'd end work and it'd be dark. And so it got a little gloomy for me, which I'm sure is no news to anybody that's lived in New England for a long time. So it's really wonderful to see the snow melting and to just look forward to spring. And that's my joy to share today. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. My joy is this. I have a friend of mine who gave me a cat. I just want to share this because I've had a cat before. He died last year. So this guy is, his name is Black Beauty, initials BB. So he's already given his trademark, as you want to see. He's quite playful. So the joy is I have a friend in my house now, you know. And so that's the joy I have. So I'm going to light up a candle for him because he is a joyful thing. So thank you very much. Thanks.
I can light a candle for someone who's passed. My husband and I are trying for a baby. And I haven't talked about this, but I lost a baby in August. And I hope that I get to be a mom someday.
My name is Randa. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I have a mixed blessing. Yesterday we had a language teachers conference, 7 hours on a Saturday. I am a form of a saint. I presented with a colleague, and we introduced ourselves as me in my last year of teaching and her in her first year of teaching, and it was a beautiful, wonderful thing. But it really brought home as I entered my last trimester of school that it's my last trimester of this career, and it's very challenging.
Pages kind of with a reading, in case you hadn't noticed in the program. Thank you, Trevor. And I'm going to read a book to you, not all of it because it's a little long, but the Unitarian Universalism is a really long name. Who are we? Unitarian Universalism is a long name. Why? Because it combines the names of two different religions with roots that go back hundreds of years. Unitarians and Universalism were both Protestant Christian faiths that had many beliefs in common. In 1961, they decided to join together to become one faith. Today, the 7 principles sum up Unitarian Universalism beliefs. What's the first principle? All people are important. No matter what they look like or where they come from, or if they're boys or girls, how much money they have, what kind of families they live in, none of us is exactly alike. Even when we live in the same family or go to the same school, our differences make the world a better place. It's not enough just to talk about what we think is right. We should work to make the world a better place. Everyone has the right to be safe and happy and have a happy life. Unitarian Universalist children help people in lots of ways. They hold car washes, pizza parties, and bake sales to raise money to help people around the world. Older children help younger ones with their homework. Youth groups serve meals at homeless shelters. Children often lead the way in starting recycling programs in their own churches. You don't have to be famous to do the right thing. You don't have to be powerful to make a difference. What do we believe? As we grow, we never stop learning about right and wrong. We learn about how to be the best people we can be. These ideas are part of what we call our religious values. Like children of all faiths, UUs, short for Unitarian Universalists, children learn to practice their religion's values at home, in church, in their schools and neighborhoods. Every religion has its own important teachers. Christians learn from the teachings of Jesus. Buddhists learn from the lessons of Buddha. Unitarian Universalists learn from the wise teachers of many religions and from Unitarian Universalists who come before us. We also learn from teachers today. Our lessons and ideas are all around us. We all grow up and explore all of these, and we find our own truths. So how do we worship? UUs gather in congregations to share, celebrate, give thanks, work for a better world. In our churches, we hear words and music, of many different religions. We also read the books of modern poets and writers. Most worship services have a time to light the chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Our services usually have a time for quiet thought and for prayer said aloud. This time begins and ends with music. Often we say a covenant together. A covenant is a promise we make to each other. And who leads us? UU congregations make their own decisions and rules. The people in the congregation plan together and vote on important decisions. This is known as the democratic process, in case you haven't heard of it. Most congregations have ministers. Choosing its minister is one very important decision a congregation makes. Ministers are people who help us live in UU Universalism. They tell stories, sometimes called sermons, that show us what it means to be a good person and how religion can help us. Ministers help families when someone is sick or dying. They believe deeply that each person matters. They remind us to believe that too. They help us understand that when we work together, we make a difference in the world. Ministers can help us talk about hard questions like, how can I decide what is right and what is wrong? What would you like a minister to ask a minister? One question we often get is, do we read the Bible? UUs read the Bible and other holy books. The holy book is a set of writings about religious beliefs. For Jews, the holy book is the Torah. Some stories and lessons, Torah. Some lessons and stories of the Torah are also part of the Christian holy book. For Muslims, the holy book is the Quran. Some religions do not have holy books. They have sacred stories that tell us about their beginnings, their beliefs, and their traditions. UUs also honor these sacred stories. Do we pray? Many UUs pray. Some of us have favorite prayers, say aloud or in private. Prayer is a way to help us listen to our thoughts or to have a conversation with God. Prayer can be remembering what we are thankful for. Prayer can be naming things we are sorry for and promising to do better next time. Praying regularly is one type of spiritual practice. A spiritual practice helps us feel the spirit of love and see what is mysterious and wonderful about the world around us. A daily spiritual practice helps us find a quiet place inside. Even things like listening to music, painting, gardening can be part of a spiritual practice. Can you think of a practice you would like to do? How do we celebrate? When a baby is born, you honor the event with a dedication or a child welcoming ceremony. Everyone in church welcomes a new baby, promises to help the child become part of the community. Children promise to be good friends to new babies too. Many teenagers in the congregation go to coming of age classes to help them become grown-ups. At the end of the classes, the congregation honors these teens with special ceremonies. Congregation weddings, commitment ceremonies for couples who promise to love and care for each other and spend their lives together. When someone dies, the congregation holds a memorial service or funeral to remember and celebrate that person's life. These services and celebrations are rites of passage that help us share important things in our lives. UU Church is special in its own way. Some churches honor important dates in their own history. Others take a Sunday to honor animals or to celebrate relationships with another church. In the spring, many congregations have a flower communion. Each person brings a flower to the front of the church, where they're gathering for big bouquets to remind us that each of us is as different as each flower, and together we create a wonderful community. Each person takes home a different flower and the one they brought as a reminder that the gifts of our church are always with us. UU congregations also celebrate holidays. Celebrate Christmas, honors the birth of Jesus, and reminds us that every birth is holy. Many also observe the Jewish holidays of Passover and Yom Kippur and pagan celebrations like the winter solstice. What is your favorite holiday? The living tradition of our UU faith begins a long time ago and keeps us growing today. Our faith helps us to remember how important each of us is, and we find our way in the world together. Being a UU means believing that each of us is responsible for living a good life, respecting others, and caring for our world. Thank you for letting us join you on your search for answers about UUs. Have a happy journey, and remember, keep asking questions.
When I called Matt early this morning, too loud, I was going to say I'll be too soft. Do something if it is not in your hearing range. Diane said, will the theme for today be vulnerability, which, as you know, is the theme for our month? And I said, no, and then I said, maybe. And you judge, you be the judge, because I think it is about very vulnerable people at a vulnerable time. And I want to thank Matt particularly. We were looking this morning, this book has been on the shelf in the nursery for an occasion when a minister got sick or a speaker couldn't come since 3/20/22, so approximately a year. I'm a bit rusty with this one because it was written over a year ago. And when we last visited, we explored a time when the Biddeford Universalist Church and the Saco Unitarian Church merged history. We'll be following the example of Ken Follett and Steven Spielberg as we step back in time to discuss the roots of our local liberal faith and the methods used to deliver that faith to the people. Please join me as we journey back to the 17th century New England. I did not know any of the folks we'll be talking about, but stay awake. There will be some juicy tidbits coming your way, even though I didn't know these folks. 1600 Puritan New England, surely a brave new world. Thrust upon these bleak and rocky shores and determined to survive, settlers needed a forceful faith to sustain and guide them. During the Great Migration of the 1630s, 20,000 English Puritans settled on our coast and established neighborhood parishes. For the most part, these parishes practiced congregational polity, choosing your own stuff and path and ministers and all kinds of things, as Matt just read. Entering into covenants within each parish. And we read our covenant at the first of the service today. Here's an example from Salem, Massachusetts in 1629. We covenant with the Lord and with each other, and do bind ourselves in the presence of God to walk together in all his ways, according as he is pleased to reveal himself unto us in his blessed word of truth. Reverend Raymond Hopkins said, Universalism is a native. That doesn't mean indigenous people. He means it happened in America about the time we're talking about. As an American religion developed in the early 1700s. It began, as most religions do, as a protest against prevailing religious ideas and practices. I want to read that again. I'm taking my cue from Donna. It began, as most religions do, as a protest against prevailing religious ideas and practices. Reverend Hopkins describes the Unitarian theology as the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, and the neighborhood of Boston. His thinking is that Universalists developed the theology and the Unitarians developed the method of delivering that theology. Some of you may have heard that last summer when I more or less developed parts of his service for a summer service. Come the American Revolution, and polity wasn't just for church anymore. People now found direction and strength in the concept of unto us. They found authority in the covenants they developed within their own churches. They rejected denominational governance and accepted the power of truths reached and tested over time by their own congregations. Many of these congregations became in fellowship with other like-minded churches. This gave these local congregations an opportunity for ministers to exchange pulpits, participate in ceremonies, and meet in council with troubled congregations. Although interference was rejected, advice and assistance were sought. I think that's the New England way. The Cambridge Synod of 1646 to 1648 produced the Cambridge Platform, which stated that councils and synods could advise but not dictate. to individual churches. How these folks found time to settle their shores and debate the word and intent of Holy Scriptures is a mystery to me. Perhaps it was the lack of social media, fast food, shopping malls, and the like. By the second or so generation, however, folks no longer felt the need to give testimony in church about their sins and their need for guidance, although that testimony used to be a condition of membership in any congregation. It was called also a profession of faith. Folks were required to attend church every Sunday, and in some cases were fined for not doing so. And the sermons, unlike the one you will hear today, ran for about 3 hours. Church membership was on the decline. To address this, a controversial halfway covenant was adopted. That granted the privilege of membership to male adults who were baptized, who raised their children in the church, and led an upright life. This covenant did not require an account of spiritual rebirth or testimony. This measure increased church attendance significantly. The issue of differing life experiences, however, continued to be a large factor in the perception of religious authority and church governance. In 1797, a local group called the Second Religious Society wrote rules and regulations which reflect this transforming of thought or change in thought about this. We have these notes. They're quill written and fading, and they are, where are they? They are right here in this notebook. And you are again invited to look at them after the service. I used to hold them up, but I drop everything after a while. Richard Bollier translated those for us. Oh gosh, now maybe 18 or 20 years ago. The first rule states that every member of the society in the general sense of the word are Christians and has the right to act in all ministerial and universe wherein their property or conscience are concerned. This difference would be at the heart of the matter in the Unitarian controversy. There were two perceived notions. One, there are certain steps one takes in the development of love and faith in a Christian life. And the other, there is a slow evolution of love and trust as individuals come to faith. The Unitarian controversy was at the heart of the split in the Biddeford Second Parish Church back in the early 1800s. A splinter group broke away and established Second Parish Unitarian Church right here on this spot. They were legally incorporated in 1827. They built this meeting house and brought their minister, the Reverend Thomas Tracy, with them, but only for a little while because they couldn't afford to pay him after the first year. Reverend Tracy was followed by many years of ministers coming on each per Sunday basis, and I was looking up stuff for this and another research project I'm doing the other day upstairs, and Dr. Nichols, who did this window, has several journals up there, and one of them, it's quill written, it's very dim, and I'm looking at him and I'm trying to figure out what it is. He would say, went somewhere today, it would be a parish person's home, collected a dozen apples, half a pork loin, blah, blah, blah. That's how they were paying him. And he would record what he was paid, and sometimes there was a little money thrown in, but there was very little cash. So we've come a long way, baby. Anyway, back to the sermon. To quote Reverend Hopkins, Universalism was a name of derision applied by its early critics, a name of scorn for those fools who believed in universal salvation. As for the Universalists in the area, my favorite from the early days is Abraham Norwood Jr. He wrote a book, and it's right down there, and it's called Pilgrimage of a Pilgrim. Anyway, from a very young age, He was troubled by the Calvinist teachings about Satan and eternal damnation. And young Abraham thought about all these things he heard in church, things his family and friends talked about. He could not believe that hell and damnation were what we all have to look forward to. And he thought and wrestled with his conscience. And his autobiography details that struggle and the rest of his life. It's pretty remarkable. And he wrote, "At this time, I was almost perfectly unacquainted with Universalism. Abraham slowly, though, came out to his family and his siblings, his friends and neighbors, and his father Abraham, who lived here, was a member of the First Parish Congregational Church, which still stands in Biddeford, and he listened to his son, and he began to feel the same way. He spoke about this to his family and friends, and he spoke about it in church. As a result, on April 4th, 1834, Abraham Norwood Sr. was notified in a letter from the Reverend Stephen Morrill that this church, in consideration of your embracing and maintaining the heresy of Universalism, that is, denial of endless punishment and denying such a being as Satan or the devil, have voted that you be deprived of the privilege of communing with us at the Lord's table. Excommunication, a terrible sentence for a person of that era, or from any era. Abraham Jr. went on to become a much respected Universalist minister. The Universalists formed a society in this area in about 1790, and early on they met in Caliph Hall, which I think is where Vic and Wits is now. If anyone knows anything different, let me know, because that's where my research has taken me. Although this group did not survive, later groups did, and in 1827 the Universalists were able to build a church on Storer Street in Saco, which they, many years later, sold to the Free Will Baptists. George Bridgham, a noted local historian of the time, wrote that prior to 1845, Universalism was proclaimed insanity and depravity. From the very beginning, our forefathers had an idea that they were compelled to tell folks about. And why not? It's certainly a splendid idea. And the idea had grown and flourished and caused consternation for a couple of hundred years. Founders delivered our theology in the manner most appropriate to the times in which they lived. Face-to-face, tracts, sermons, later radio, TV, conferences, tapes, movies, and now, for heaven's sakes, Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. We have not changed our message. We have changed the way in which we deliver our message to fit the times. A very dear UU friend, who gave me permission to quote her, sat in my kitchen recently discussing some of our building issues. "Who cares?" she exclaimed. "This place won't be here in 50 years, and neither will we." Well, exactly. Exactly. I thought, whoa. And I had no immediate verbal response, sort of weird for me, but I was shocked to silence. What she said was like a pebble in my shoe that kept burrowing into my foot. Days later, I asked her to explain. She said, "I meant that in 50 years we won't be delivering religion the way we do now. There may not be room for our building in our future." If our future is the continuation of our vision, our principles, our ideals, why carry on? Because I care, and I try, and I carry on, and because we care, and we try, and we carry on. In the context of the times in which we live, we will go forward, delivering our message, our doctrines of truth, love, faith in ourselves and in each other.
When we gather together as a community, we bring the gifts of ourselves, our hearts and spirits, our time and energy, our talents and skills to support the work of this church here within our walls and out in the larger community. We also bring our gifts of generosity, giving of what we have so that the work of this church may continue. As always, half our offering today will be sent out into the larger community to support the work of an agency or organization that is making a difference in our world. This month, we are sharing our offering with age-friendly Saco. If you are watching from home on YouTube, donations may be made by clicking the PayPal link in the video description, or checks may be mailed to UUCSB, 60 School Street, Saco. Please be generous as the ushers collect this morning's offering. As we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. Please join us in singing the closing hymn, number 93.
pity, peace, and love, all pray in their distress. And to those virtues of delight, return their thankfulness. Return their thankfulness. For mercy has a human heart, and pity a human face, and love the human form divine, and peace the human dress, and peace the human dress. Then every one of every clime that prays in deep distress, praise to the human form divine, love, mercy, pity, and peace. Love, mercy, pity, peace. Long may you be continued together, blessing and blessed, holding fast the original faith with openness and firmness, yet living in peace and Christian clarity with all who differ from you, tender to their feelings, indulgent of their prejudice, and just to their virtues and sincerity. And when all earthly complexions are dissolved and earthly scenes have departed, may you be found as here, worshiping and serving God together, the accepted and glorified followers of the Lamb in a house not made with hands, eternal in heaven. Again from Greenwood's sermon. Go in peace and love and courage. Please be seated for the postlude.
Didn't feel like it. Fine.